Nice shooting, son. What's your name?
Murphy.
Hello and welcome to, no, it's not the 80s Toy Museum, it's the Great White Void. And this setup right here is especially nice for taking a look at things with an incredible amount of detail in them, which is what we're going to be looking at today. It is the Mafex ROBOCOP Battle Damaged Edition. These are very high-end figures, very expensive. Can't collect these all. Can't even collect all classified and Marvel Legends these days, but these are once in a while figures. You can basically think of them as shrunk down versions of Hot Toys figures, 12-inch figures. Those are also not toys, despite being called Hot Toys. They're extremely highly detailed figures, and that's what this is. Off the charts detail. There's been a couple of ROBOCOP figures released by the company right there is Mafex. And there's a regular version. I went with the battle damaged version because if I can only have one version of ROBOCOP, I want it to be the version that has Alex Murphy shining through. So you also get a stand with it in the back here, and some paperwork back there, and a really nice tray that holds everything into place. And a big thing that's always important with the packing of these figures is, looks like they've included enough of a gap there to protect the nose. The noses are always being rubbed off on these figures, even with 12-inch figures sometimes. So it's nice when they include extra space for that. Really good clamshell on here to protect everything inside. And once we lift that off, get a look at all the accessories included here. I've got the 12-inch Murphy Battle Damaged ROBOCOP, which I'm going to bring out to compare. And he basically comes with everything that 12-inch Battle Damaged ROBOCOP comes with. Comes with the giant gun, the Cobra assault cannon. This is very similar to a blast effect, a muzzle flash, that the Figma figure came with, which I'll show you. The Auto 9. That effing gun. Some baby food. One of them has been spun around there. For target practice, lots of different hands. The data spike. And then if you want him to be in a pose where he's pulling the Auto 9 out of his leg, the 12-inch Hot Toys figure actually does open up. This one you would have to stick in these separate pieces in order to display that. And a 360 of Murphy. If you haven't watched the Robo-Doc on Tubi right now, 4-part series, highly recommend checking out that documentary. It goes into not just the making of the movie, all the standard interesting stuff of how the movie was financed and written and how the costume was made and how it was made to work, but my favorite part of that documentary was Peter Weller and Paul Verhoeven really touch on the spirit of the character and how the movie is all about how this big evil corporation tries to destroy this man by taking everything from him, every materialistic thing, his family, but they cannot take his spirit. So that was a cool little thing that Paul Verhoeven snuck into ROBOCOP, and that's why the first movie works so well, and no other ROBOCOP thing ever works as well, because Paul Verhoeven really wanted to touch on the unbreakable spirit of the character that none of the other movies really focused on. And if you're a real detail aficionado, this is a feast for the eyes. This is not a toy. It's a moving sculpture. It's so much like the Hot Toys figures, just condensed. I've seen a lot of ultra detailed 6-inch figures before, but I have to say that this one really takes the cake when it comes to not just the sculpting, but the painting. I'm going to try to show you some of the incredible detail, the wash. Before I saw this in person, I thought there's no way that they can come even close to the battle damage, like the grime. So in terms of this leaking, that I don't think is as good as the 12-inch Hot Toys version. but you can see this kind of almost, it's like a dirty film on the chest there. You can see some really great detail there in gorgeous 4K. Shooting now in 4K. The shoulders there, the grime and the grit is really, really well done. The NECA figure, I don't think looks good. It just kind of looks like he has poop smeared all over him. It's kind of like that on the NECA figure, but everywhere. Just like they smeared him with an all-over paint job. And you can see some of the varied coloration in the ROBOCOP suit. They do say in RoboDoc how the suit, the reason it keeps looking different is because it is different. They had to repaint it like every day or every other day. And that's why sometimes parts that looked silver will later look blue or purpley, pearlescent, because they just kept painting the suit. Got the OCP police detail on the leg there. Gotta have the working pistons. So those work just like on the big figure and some of the smaller ones. Toes move. Get into some of the articulation. The knee bend is extremely impressive. It's surprising that he's got that much range. He might actually have better range than the Hot Toys figure does. Can he do the Spartan kick? The ankles are a little on the loose side. Actually, everything is looser, I would say, than a G.I. Joe classified figure. But they're tight enough. And I do like how the joints feel on these, even though they feel a little looser than your most 6-inch figures. It doesn't feel like I'm going to break it. Like things will pop off before they break. And that's actually one of the things that I'm glad pops off so easily. Is the hands. I would rather have them pop off than break, and they actually just slide on. They're not really held on like some pegs, which is a smart call because these pegs break a lot. Same on the other hand. This is not a toy for rough play. This is for posing, for looking at, and it's really, really impressive. Like, for being a shrunk down version, or looking like a shrunk down version of that Hot Toys figure, the posability is really incredible. If you have the chair that came with one of the NECA sets, you should be able to sit in that chair very well, the regeneration chair. Imagine him fitting in there just nicely. Shoulders, hands have tons of range, so you could probably even put them on the hand rests there. The shoulders are very interesting. Pop in and out, very similar to the Hot Toys figure. It's really nice range on that. A lot of purple on the back of the head, with some kind of oozing, leaking. Amazing detail on the head. And most impressive of all, and the reason why I got this figure, is the face sculpt. For a very long time, there was never any Peter Weller approved likenesses for ROBOCOP toys. That's why so many of them have the helmet on, to hide the fact that it's not Weller. Well, this is one of the best face sculpts I've ever seen on a 6-inch figure. Now, it has a little bit of that technique they use. It looks like it's not painted, but it's printed on. I remember a Roddy Piper figure, They Live Roddy Piper figure, kind of having that look. You can really see it around the eyes. It's almost like print lines around the eyes, and the 4K camera is really picking that up nice. Bullet hole in his forehead. Got those blue eyes. So just a little bit away from your eye, it looks perfect. shoving it right next to a 4K lens, which is not really what it's intended for, but it stands up incredibly well under like that close scrutiny. You can look at this with a microscope, magnifying glass, and really appreciate all of the detail in here. This is incredible. Rob Boutin is a genius. And let's take a look at some of the accessories. Baby food. Little baby food jar with a picture of a baby on it. And there's actually, it looks like there's food in there. And then another one, Blue Label. And then another one. 3 of them so you can stack them up like he does in the movie, I believe. Sort of like that. And in order to blast the baby food jars, you need that effing gun, the Auto 9. So let's install it on Murphy's wrist. Going to need a Auto 9 gripping hand, and they've included not one gun gripping hand, but 2. And what's really interesting about this one is there's one with the finger not pulling on the trigger and one pulling the trigger. So if you want him to just hold the Auto 9 without the muzzle flash, you can just feed it in there. I'm doing this without warming up anything. You can see that the finger isn't actually pulling on the trigger. This is what I like about this white background. It's very easy to see now. And if you want him to be pulling on the trigger, I would advise being very careful with this piece right here. Not because the hand might break, but because you might break that loop that the finger is sticking through. And there's the second hand. You can see here that the finger is pulling back on the trigger. Right there, right next to it. And you can add the muzzle flash effect. Just slide it onto the end of the gun. It's exactly like the Figma one. There's a gap right here which just slides right on the top of the gun. This part is a little concerning because it looks like you might knock some paint off as you're applying that. Something to be careful with. And it's that very distinctive coming out of the sides and out of the front muzzle flash. I got so much light on this great white void that it's really blowing the effect out. And then my favorite part is what the 1/6 scale community calls futzing. That's usually I think used for clothing, making clothing look like it's sitting right. But I've always just referred to it as the little tiny adjustments and nudges for posing. See, right here his head needs to either be looking more towards the barrel or the barrel needs to be moving a little bit more. Looks like I've got just a little bit of a bend here from it sitting in the packaging. That can be straightened out by heating it up and cooling it down quickly. So you can have that type of look. You can almost replicate that look that ROBOCOP does, that fencing pose that he does when he has his hand, free hand up in the air. Tons of posing possibilities, just beautiful. Just a stunning looking figure. You can have him shooting at the baby food. Every single angle looks like just an incredible shot on this. So it's not just looking good from the front or from the side, but like everything. Let's take the shooting effect off. And you can also have him holding the gun straight up. That's another great looking pose. And one of the effects that he includes is the extra plates on the leg, so that you can actually have him pulling the gun out of the side of the leg. Now it's too bad that this doesn't actually open up, but that could be a blessing in disguise at this scale, because I had the NECA ROBOCOP 6-inch figure, or 7-inch it might have been, that had a leg that opened up, and it broke pretty quickly from not much use and being used very gently. It just broke. So it might be a good thing that you have to actually pull this off and install separate pieces to avoid breakage. And to do that, this piece right here, you can see that little seam right there and the seam on the back, just pulls off very easily. It holds in there really nice. It's not coming out, but it comes out easily. So that's nice that they were able to engineer it that way. And then this will just looks like it slides in like that. And then the second piece just slides into the back like this. Seal that gap up back there. And a 360 of Murphy reaching for the Auto 9. And interesting thing is, you can't pose him reaching for the Auto 9 and holding the baby food jar, because his baby food jar gripping hand is his right hand, his reaching hand or his trigger grip hand is his right hand. So a lot of stuff going on with his right hand, including data spike. And there he is with the data spike installed. He's not arresting Clarence Boddicker anymore. That looks really nice on there too. Really dynamic looking figure. So many easily achieved beautiful poses on this guy. And for the rare occasions that the Auto 9 doesn't get the job done, there's the Cobra Assault Cannon. So on the big Hot Toys version, the bipod actually swings down, and on this version, the folded up mode is removable, and you can just insert the down bipod if you want it to sit on the ground. And one thing that this figure can do that the Hot Toys figure can't, I have not been able to figure out how to get my Hot Toys RoboCop figure to hold the assault cannon. He just doesn't have enough range in his arms, and so surprisingly a smaller figure has more range than a 12-inch figure. He's able to two-hand. You can hold it with one hand with the Hot Toys figure, but holding it two-handed like this, or having the hand on top of it, sort of, it doesn't really look all that good. Looks better with it underneath. Steadying it. And then one of the other hands he has is the pointing hand, to let creeps know that dead or alive they're coming with Murphy. And that's another great looking pose right there. think if ROBOCOP is carrying a Cobra assault cannon, you should probably go peacefully. And when your Robo gets the munchies, you can chow down on some baby food. Here he is with the baby food jar gripping hand. I also mentioned the head is extremely posable, and he fell off my shelf the other day and the head popped off. Got very lucky. There was no damage done to the paint job on the head. Didn't get the nose paint scraped off. And it's nice that it just pops off that easily, because if you have the other ROBOCOP, he comes with the damaged helmet, so you could pop this head off, put on the battle damaged helmeted head, and then you have ROBOCOP before he takes his helmet off in the movie. And I just heard a great John Cena quote. He said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." I think he meant career or the way you look, comparing to others. But comparing toys is always interesting to see the evolution of them. So here's the original Kenner ROBOCOP figure. And take his helmet off just so that they look a little closer. Very first ROBOCOP figure ever made. He has come a long way. And like I was saying earlier, that is not very good Peter Weller likeness on the original one. Although it does kind of look like somebody. I bet it's probably based on some Kenner employee. That's the original one. And there's the Figma one I told you about that has the same type of muzzle flash. The coloration on the Figma one is a little nicer. It's a little deeper yellow. Figma one is a little shorter. And again, this is why I prefer the battle damage version. There's just so much more going on. It looks more interesting to me than when ROBOCOP is looking perfectly fine, not a scratch on him. The Figma one also has the leg that opens up. No detail on the face whatsoever, just literally a line for his mouth. Very like comic book, or even Lego. He looks like a Lego guy in there. It's an interesting figure because there's so much great design and detail everywhere else. Beautiful shimmering paint job, but Lego face. Although Lego face is not as bad as Seat Feets. And I'm just curious if these are compatible. No. Too loose on there, so that will be way too tight. Yeah, it's interesting, the smaller Figma figure, the Auto 9 is much fatter on it. Much thicker end to it. NECA did do an ED 209. This is not the NECA ED 209. This is the Haya ED 209, which goes with the 4-inch ROBOCOP figures. So much smaller, G.I. Joe scale right here. But if you've got the NECA ED 209, it would go perfectly with this ROBOCOP. It would make for a nice display of your Robo blasting away at an ED in the distance. And the main event, the Hot Toys 12-inch battle damaged Alex Murphy and all of his accessories. So here's the cannon, assault rifle, and that seems to be a problem with this one. The bipod keeps falling out, at least the version of the bipod that's down, but the detail is very, very similar. And the two Auto 9s. I'm not sure if the battle damaged Hot Toys one came with a metal. This is metal. I'm not sure if it was the battle damaged one or the regular version that came with the metal Auto 9, but there's the size difference of the two Auto 9s. And then I think this one has labels that I never applied, but he's got 3 jars of baby food. But most importantly, let's compare the figures. And on the big guy, he doesn't have any of that kind of cheap looking blue. This blue oozing that I showed a little earlier. It's the only part of the paint job that looks really cheap to me. Just these streaks of blue that they have leaking out of him. Other than that, it looks exactly like the big one. They don't do that on the big one. Well, I guess there's a little bit of something bluish here, but it's more translucent looking. Yeah, there is a little bit of blue on there. It's not as pronounced as on the little guy there. And I mean, the face sculpt on the big one is just kind of uncanny. It's spooky how realistic it looks. This one right here looks like something they would actually use in a movie as a stand-in for like a miniature shot. And this looks, I mean, this looks uncanny as well, but just a little more toy-like. This, nothing toy-like about this. Just completely realistic looking movie miniature. So the Hot Toys one was very expensive when it first came out, and it's still expensive if you can still find it somewhere. But if you can't afford the Hot Toys or couldn't afford it back then, yes, I know, as expensive as this one is, and it is expensive, it is an incredible alternative to the Hot Toys one. So if this is your dream RoboCop figure and you can't have it due to finances, then this one is a little more possible. I think it's 1/3 the price of the Hot Toys one, maybe even less. I mean, his arms and legs do move, but he is so limited in his arms and legs, and I feel like I can just get so many more dynamic poses with the little guy that this feels more like an action figure, like a toy. Whereas this feels more like a sculpture that happens to move quite a bit, but not as much. The legs are especially an issue on this RoboCop because they don't swing out, or they don't swing up, they swing out like that, which makes him look very strange in the chair. Whereas this guy, see, it kind of swings out, but still, even the difference in the elbow, just trying to get him to hold the spike up, there's rubber material in there, and it's not letting the elbow hold. It wants to go back like that. On the Mafex one, not the same problem. He's got a great elbow crunch there. You have lots of range there. So yeah, more of a posable toy to be futzed with, the Mafex, whereas the Hot Toys is more of a kind of at rest, stoic looking pose, and just sit there and look expensive. And I haven't shown these off yet, so here's a shot of him with the fist hands. If you've got a Clubber Lang figure, or an Apollo Creed, or Ivan Drago, RoboCop can go fisticuffs with them. So, I'm not going to say it's a must-have for RoboCop fans. Nothing is a must-have other than food and paying your rent or mortgage. But we'll reassure you that if you are a huge RoboCop fan and you're concerned that this thing isn't worth the price, I think it is. As long as this is it. Like if you're getting one RoboCop figure and not the whole line, not like every single RoboCop 2, RoboCop 3, all the different versions. But if you just want one Mafex figure, maybe you don't have any of them, and you're concerned like, how can it be worth the price? Well, after playing around with it before this, and now for the video, I think it is. I'm just so impressed with the detail and the functionality of it. It's what a good toy for an adult collector is, in my opinion. Great posability, stable. There's nothing really annoying me about this figure. Maybe this. I just grab this and this thing keeps falling out, so that's easily tightened. with a little bit of crazy glue. But I love how easily the hands swap out. I'm so glad that they don't secure in there with a mushroom peg. It's really nice to just swap them out like that. All the joints move really nicely. I do like how sort of slightly loose they are. They would be a lot more frustrating if they were a lot stiffer, more breakage. The gumminess of some of the figures that Hasbro does these days. It's just a fantastic figure to pose, to move around with, and beautiful detail on him, especially that face. I love the ROBOCOP helmet, but to me, Peter Weller is what made ROBOCOP special, along with everyone else who worked on that movie. Paul Verhoeven, Ed Neumeyer, Rob Bottin. I mean, it was a team to make this character what it is, but those soulful eyes of Peter Weller are what make the movie magic. And there they are right there. Incredible sculpt. Really incredible for a 6-inch figure. Stunning. And a couple of more comparisons to close out the video. Here he is with I believe a Mafex Batman Begins. And they've come a long way. I think this is an older figure, and the face sculpt is not great. Like it looks very plasticky and toyish, whereas this looks like a shrunk down Hot Toys. And with wrestlers, here he is with the Superstar. So a little bit smaller than a wrestler. And then we've got Marvel Legend, Wolverine, another guy with spikes in his hand. Be a cool shot to get Wolverine dueling with RoboCop. And I sure hope that RoboCop's data spike is made out of adamantium. And I haven't had an issue with him falling over, but here's his stand. And it comes with two different types of posts. A straight post, or you can install this arm on there. Click that in there. I won't be using this because I think it just kind of looks ugly. It does let you do walking poses though, which he would be able to do on his own. So it's a trade-off. You get a clearly visible stand holding onto him, but RoboCop isn't known for his running, but he does have a very dynamic, powerful walk. So it is cool to be able to get him in that style of pose. Walking and shooting. The stand is much less visible on this great white void. It would be a little more visible on any normal background. And this part comes off, and I don't know if I was missing a piece because there's this post right here, and there doesn't seem to be any other pieces that can fit on there. I'm not sure. This kind of, to me, seems like one of those 6th scale stands that cradle the figure, so it's not as visible. That's a little better. Or there's this style. You just put in the straight post and then slide this down. I guess you could have it attached to a leg. That'll provide a little more stability than if he was just standing on his own there. That's not bad. I like that a little bit better than the big grip around the waist. And this guy will fall on you. Those ankles are too loose to withstand a little bit of a bump, plus the bend on the toes. Yeah, those are too weak to really. It's enough to hold the figure on his own, but the problem is when you're shaking an entire table or just the slightest bump. He's taking a few bumps right now, but I did knock him off my my table with just the slightest bump. It's not too bad though. While I was futzing around too, I discovered the pistons go back and forth, so it's not just a up and down movement on the pistons. So that will also guard against breakage as well as provide, look at that, much more posability. It's in a ball joint right there. What an amazing figure. It's the ultimate ROBOCOP figure. It's a different scale than the Hot Toys one, but when you add everything up, it's definitely a lot more fun to futz around with the Mafex 6-inch ROBOCOP figure than with the Hot Toys one, which is just something that it's more of a hands-off display piece. But for moving around, playing around, interchangeable parts, the Cobra assault cannon, even you're not really going to need the baby food, but even that's just included for different posing options. There is a lot to do with this one. So expensive, yep, but tons of detail, great posing ability, beautiful detail, lots of different hand options, and did I mention incredible detail, which I hope the 4K really helped show off today. Alright, that's Mafex Battle Damage ROBOCOP, aka Alex Murphy Reborn, Alex Murphy Unconquered. Thanks a lot for checking out the video. And to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Till next time, Nerdmas Day.